Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I'm conducting a bit of an experiment. What I'm going to be doing is actual first impressions of Warhammer 40K, Wrath and Glory, the current iteration of a Warhammer 40K role-playing game. I mean, I've kind of looked through it a little bit, but I'm going to be trying to give as much of my gut first instinct impressions as I can, because I just want to see if this sort of video is something people want to see more of. And something like this is a good test. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I give first impressions. So my first impression is actually based on the cover, and it's more, this is kind of neat. You can't really see it in the video, but where you see all these weapon discharges, they've actually put some smooth textured something, clear smooth texture over them so that they have a different feel to them. It's really notable on the Thunderhammer, where it's all kind of raised and you can kind of feel that lightning arc around it. It's just one of those really kind of neat little things. And I mean, it's a small detail, doesn't really mean much, but it's something to notice. Now let's check the next thing. This is something anyone who was a gamer in the 80s would check. Yes. This book has an index. For those of us who were gamers back in the 80s, books tended to not have indexes. They tended to even have only the vaguest of table of contents. So you spent a lot of time having to guess where important stuff was. So let's see. We have a overall table of contents. And let's see how it is arranged. So we have an introduction, the standard introduction, what's a role-playing game, how to use this book, etc., etc. Some basic fluff introduced in there, it looks like, in something called Letters to the Progenia, referencing the Scala Progenia. Let's see, we've got... Yep, that's exactly what it does seem to be. It's just some nice little summary of different world elements. Then you have character creation, factions, archetypes. Archetypes are basically the plug and play version of anything. They've got a number of different example characters, whether you're talking about Sister Hospitaller, a Space Marine Scout, a Tactical Marine, an Inquisitor, a Tech Priest. They've got pre-made characters that you can just pretty much go, oh, I'm starting a new game, I don't want to have to do all the math. Boom, here's something for me to play. And they're also good guidelines for what you need if you're going to be playing that yourself. One thing I find really cool in this immediately is just this. You've got this short section from page 6 to 17 that seems like it is mostly fluff. Setting, etc. It's a quick intro to the setting, and then it dives right into character creation. Let's face it, most people, when they pick up a new RPG book, they're looking for two things: character creation and how you fight. I'm sorry, but yeah, that is pretty much it. So, I'm looking at this, and we've got the introduction, you got character creation, factions, which is part of character creation, archetypes, attributes, skills, talents, and character advancement. So, you have a brief 16-page introduction, and then you have a huge chunk from page 17 to page 157 that is just dealing with characters, character creation, advancement, and all this stuff relating to characters. Then, I know that's a good chunk. That's about 140 pages. The rules section, which covers the core mechanics, combat, war gear, and psychic powers, covers the rest of the book, with the last entry for psychic powers, severe mutations, starting on 291. So, let's see what the character creation is like. In short, I already know, but it is an XP-based character creation. You have a number of options, and you set the tier. Jim sets the tier that he wants it to be at. A tier 1 game is 100 XP. A tier 2 game is 200. Tier 3, 300. Tier 4, 400. And that determines your starting XP. And from there, you pick your templates, your archetypes. And your archetypes do different things. But the thing is, it looks like you have a attribute maximum, minimum. You get stuff based on your faction. Now, what's interesting is the species. They treat human, Adeptus Astartes, and Primaris Astartes as 3 separate species. You can also play Eldari or Orcs. And yeah, that's a quick little look there. The 10 questions. Most games have 20 questions. No, here only has 10. Because we are talking about the 42nd millennium. Life tends to be short. It's like, where are you from? How were you raised? How did you join the faction? Who are your friends? What are your most significant memories? What is your greatest desire? What is your greatest fear? What do you believe in? To whom or what are you loyal? And of course, since the game focuses on the Gilead system, why are you in the Gilead system? But let's see. I mean, overall, it looks like a fairly standard point-buy system. Of course, the factions for the Empire, for the Imperium, it's Adeptus Sororitas, Adeptus Astra Telepathica, Adeptus Mechanicus, Adeptus Ministorum, Astra Militarum, the Inquisition, Rogue Trader Dynasties, Adeptus Astartes, and Scum. And then the Eldari, Orcs, and Chaos are all their own faction. Alright, so we do have some setting info in the factions when it talks about possible backgrounds for the Adeptus Sororitas, Adeptus Astrotelepathica, etc., etc. What's interesting is they have, looking at the Adeptus Sororitas, they have one of two distinct archetypes for them: Sister Hospitaller or Sister of Battle. And then they have background, which is divided into 3 sections: origin, accomplishment, goal. And each of these, you make a roll, and of a D3, like, say you're rolling origin, you get Holy Inspiration, Heresy begets Retribution, and Blessed Tomes. And whichever of these you get partially contributes to your backstory, but also gives a bonus to an attribute. Like, Blessed Tomes gives a +1 to conviction. Whatever that is. As I said, these are just first impressions. These are things that are just standing out to me as I go through this. And let's see. It actually has a note for Adeptus Astartes. It has a sideboard for Unknown Succession. If you are playing a Space Marine of the Absolvers chapter, or a different chapter of Unknown Succession, you may take the chapter traits of any of the first founding chapters listed. Replace your chapter keyword with the name of your chosen yada yada. So basically it's a just fast and quick, yeah, you gotta fit into some box. We're gonna make that round peg fit in that square hole. But, and let's see, the traits for the different Marine types are kind of interesting. Some are tactical based and don't have a qualifier on them. Some are based on their gene seed, like the Red Thirst for the Blood Angels. Some are tradition, like Ruthless Logic for the Iron Hands. Actually, each one has a basic trait that they all have. And then they have either a gene seed or a tradition. Like, the Blood Angels have Savage Echoes. Masters of Assault Combat, Blood Angels are driven by... They can reroll double their rank dice once per melee attack test. And then they have the Red Thirst, where when they're in melee combat, they must make a willpower test, and if they fail, they're frenzied. That sort of thing. Craft worlds and such seem to be the same for the Eldari. They actually have rules for creating a Trader Marine, or any Trader. And, but, let's see, they have a number of, let's see, are these a case of positive and negative traits? List of talents. So, these are things that, let's see, rank 2 plus Adeptus Astartes can spend 30 XP for Angel of Death. You add your rank to the total damage value of successful attacks with essentially all the weapons that are iconic for Marines. Chain swords, power fists, unarmed strikes, bolt weapons, etc. That sort of thing. Quick look, it seems like, first off, there's a most of these talents have a requirement. It might be a faction, it might be abilities, it might be other talents. But yeah, that's a quick look right there. Alright, the rules. So, of course, the golden rule: if a rule is in the way of fun, change or ignore it. Neat little thing is they actually give a little reference spot right on the first page of the rules to where the important rules are, like tests, difficulty numbers, etc., etc. Alright, and great game rules. Everyone's invited to the fun is the first one. Be welcoming to everyone. Respect people who don't want certain uncomfortable off limits. Respect people who don't want certain uncomfortable topics in the game. Discuss what isn't okay before you start. Be considerate. Teamwork. You're a team, so share the spotlight. Table manners. Discuss whether things like texting, eating, or drinking alcohol are acceptable at the table. Respect your GM. Good mentors, i.e. teach new players. Play for fun. It's not about winning. So, basically, these are the common sense rules that need to be explained just so people don't be bad people. Unfortunately, the world is not full of people with common sense, so I guess these do need to be explained. But these three things are all on literally the first full page dealing with rules. Now, the core mechanic. Test uses number dice. Alright, your character's attributes and skills determine the number of 6-sided dice that you roll. And once you've gathered all the die, adding any relevant bonus die, and making sure you place one die with your wrath die, you have your dice pool and are ready to roll. Every die that is a 4 or 5 counts as one icon. Every die that lands on a 6 is an exalted icon, which counts as 2 icons. So, basically, icon is success. 4 and 5 are 1 success. 6 is 2 successes. Okay, that's simple, and it starts based on your attributes and skills, modified by talents and war gear, etc. That sounds simple. Or at least it sounds straightforward. What, though, is the wrath die? Okay, so, wrath die, you replace one of your die in every roll with a wrath die. If you have one die, then that die is the wrath die. And it counts as a normal die for determining successes unless it rolls a 1 or a 6. Okay, if it rolls a 1, it's a complication, a narrative prompt to add something to the scene, not necessarily something negative, but something unexpected and dramatic. Okay, if the wrath die lands on a 6, it's a wrath critical. You add 1 point of glory to the group's pool, and if you make a successful attack, you score a critical hit, add 1 point of glory, and then you check another page for the grisly results. So obviously this does something nasty. And of course everyone starts with 2 wrath, and you can use wrath to reroll failures, or make a negative declaration, or restore shock. Glory can be used to increase dice pool, increase damage, increase severity of a critical hit, and to seize the initiative. And yeah. Shifting. So odds will always be stacked against you, but sometimes fate and the abilities intertwined to allow you to perform great feats in dramatic moments. If there is an exalted icon, a result of a 6 on a die, in a test results, you might be able to remove it for special effects. That's kind of cool. They've got stuff relating to role-playing and social encounters. I mean, it's not a large rules section. It's like half a page, but it's still there. And then influence tests, all the various types of tests. Combat, let's see. Describes what's going on. GM describes. Okay, GM, SGM, any questions about the scene? For example, decide what you want your character to do. You can detail what you want to achieve as simply or as vividly as like. You could just say, I hit the orc, or you could add details like, I charged the green-skinned menace with my chainsword, screaming a furious prayer to the Emperor. Once you said what you want to do, roll a skill test. What you do on your turn is limited only by your imagination and the capabilities of your character. Get creative. Let's see. Moving on your turn, you can move up to your speed in meters. And let's see. To make an attack, your target needs to be in range of your weapon. If you're using a melee weapon, roll weapon skill. If you're using a ranged weapon, roll ballistic skill test. The difficulty number for the test is your target's defense. If you roll enough icons to equal or exceed the target's defense, you hit. Damage. Let's see. You'll make your weapon. You look at your weapon profile, and so let's see. It's actions, advanced actions, attacks, movement, damage and defense, melee options, ranged options, situations. This is actually a good quick reference guide. Not because it gives you the rules at a glance, but it gives you the page number for everything on it at a glance. That's something I don't see that often. Honestly, one thing I'm really liking about this is it has this referencing ability. If you're looking at something, it is giving you a page reference. Let's see, initiative. Use a turn that involves back and forth interplay between. At the beginning of each round, you and your party choose which character acts first. Once that agent finishes their actions, the GM chooses one of their threats to act. So basically, it's the players get to act first, and then GM moves something, and then the players, and it can change up that way. Ambush, of course, is a thing, and ambush characters don't get a turn in the first round. Seizing the initiative. Whenever an agent has finished their turn for the round, the players can seize the initiative. Instead of the initiative order passing to a threat, the players may choose to spend one glory to have another agent act instead. Okay, that's neat. I'm going to admit, I kind of want to see the... Alright, so, yeah, it's combat's pretty much a skill test, it looks like. I just really want to wrap this up with seeing what the grisly effects of a critical hit are on page 198. So, the critical hit chart uses a D66. So, for those not familiar with Warhammer 40K or Games Workshop, a D66 is 2 die 6, the first number being the tens digit, the second one being the ones digit. It's kind of a weird thing. It's something I've only seen GW do. But, let's see. 11 to 16 is a headshot. The foe reels from such a violent strike, unable to focus. And they suffer more wounds and gain staggered. Overpowering assault on 51 to 53. Stunning blow sends the foe lurching away. Senses blurred by the brutal impact. Suffers 1d6 shock and is staggered. Glory +2 shock for every glory you spend. So you can spend glory on these to make them do more. Appalling detonation, 64 to 65. Ill fortune causes the blow to strike one of the foe's volatile war gear. A chain of explosions tears their body apart into a grisly red mist. Target suffers 1d6 wounds. If the target carried any explosives, such as grenades or ammunition, they detonate, inflicting 1d3 mortal wounds. For every point of glory you spend, you can choose one of the following effects. The critical hit affects an additional target within 10 meters. All targets suffer +1 wound. And finally, the high end of it, and note, this was just, I was randomly looking at different ones. The high end of it is Grisly Amputation. Foe's limb is removed with extreme prejudice, leaving their body in a crimson arc. Target suffers 1 mortal wound, and 1 limb is destroyed. Roll 1d6. On an even result, the activating player may choose the limb. On an odd result, the GM chooses. Glory, +1 mortal wound for every glory you spend. And I just want to see one thing. So it does not seem like... Yeah, there is not hit locations as a standard part of this. So this is just a quick first impressions, and this looks interesting. I look forward to doing a more in-depth look in the future, because oh boy, do I have a lot to go through on this. Next week, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do next week, but you will find out when the video drops. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.